We're picking up in Matthew chapter 5 again this week, moving farther along. So we're looking at verses 21 through 26. And Jesus does give some thoughts on the management of anger. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not murder. And whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you'll be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you'll be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go first. Be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny." So back in the day, there was a boy who had been watching too many westerns. He received a brand new cowboy setup for his birthday. It included the cowboy hat, a neckerchief, cowboy belt with big buckle, holster, and a cowboy revolver. All day long, this little cowboy went all around the house going bang, 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 bang. Morning, noon, and night, he was going bang, 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 bang. Finally, Mother has had enough. Mom says, "Be silent." Our little cowboy falls silent. He looks a little hurt. He thinks for a moment, and then he lifts his little revolver and goes, "Ang, ang, ang, ang." "Be silent," Mom said. So we have introduced the first three letters of anger, ang, ang. Aside from anger wearing out Mother's nerves, we look at the larger problem of anger. Jesus is basically telling his disciples anger has a cost. Sooner or later, our anger is going to have a cost. Jesus starts out with the commandment everybody agrees with: murder is bad. Jesus goes on to say anger gets you in just as much trouble. Let's look at this thing, anger. Anger is an emotion. It is a powerful feeling of negative energy. But anger is a secondary emotion. There's usually another emotion that comes first. A primary emotion stirs us up, and then we feel anger, the second emotion. Primary emotions such as fear, embarrassment, or grief can lead to an angry reaction. Fear, as a rule, triggers our fight or flight response. Let us say we are playing baseball. Let us say Nolan Ryan is on the mound and throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. Let's say Nolan throws a wild pitch and it hits us in the batting helmet. That's scary. We feel fear. Then maybe we get angry. Maybe we want to charge the pitcher's mound. First we have the scare. Then we have the anger. But that anger can have a cost. If we charge the mound, we are going to get kicked out of the ball game. If we get kicked out, we cannot go to first base, and we will not be on base to score the winning run. Embarrassment can be a trigger for anger. Let us say we bake a rhubarb pie from scratch. Let us say while baking, the phone rings when the sugar was supposed to go in the rhubarb. Then we serve the rhubarb pie for dessert. Let us say we and our spouse take a bite of the pie at the exact same time. We realize that the pie is bitter as an old vinegar rag. Before we can apologize for the lack of sugar, our spouse says the first thing that comes to mind: "What kind of fool leaves the sugar out of rhubarb pie?" Oops, that is pretty embarrassing. It's bad enough the pie is ruined. Now the social atmosphere is ruined. We get angry and we swear to ourselves, "I am never making them another pie." The cost of anger becomes one lifetime supply of pie for dessert. And grief. How does that create anger? This may seem strange at first, but in grief books and workshops, they talk about how anger often follows the first shock and sadness of losing a loved one in death. Sometimes there is a feeling of, how could you leave me like this? The harvest is not done. There are bills to pay. There are children to feed. How could you leave me now like this way? Of course, we do not want to be mad at our loved one. We are mad at the situation. We can feel abandoned when somebody is suddenly not there. So we may get mad at the feed store, bookkeeper. We may get mad at the propane driver. We know it's not really helping, but sometimes when we want to cry, we use anger to keep going. Maybe it's best to go ahead and just have the cry. Jesus said anger can be like a runaway train. If the anger gets out of control, it can kill someone. It may kill physically. It may kill spiritually. Be careful of the anger train before it leaves the station. Not too long ago, an expert in feelings and emotions talked about a good way to slow down the anger train. It's called the RPRR Railroad. When we have a strong feeling, we can react. We can just blow up. Or we can take a ride on this RPRR Railroad. The initials stand for remove, process, reframe, and respond. Remove means step back. Process means think. Reframe means take a second look. For example, Nolan Ryan has always been a wild pitcher. It's not personal with him. Rhubarb pie does taste bad without sugar. Mistakes happen. And grief, yes, grief is very hard. We can respond differently, though. For example, we can just take first base and keep going for home base and score that run. Or we can choose not to cry over spilled milk and just make another pie. And of course, in the grief response, we can just get another box of tissues and give ourselves permission to go ahead and have a good cry once in a while. Reverend James MacDonald, in his book, Lord, Change My Attitude, says, feelings make a better caboose than an engine. When the emotions get running high, they can run off the rails. When faith and reason are out front, we can process our feelings. It keeps the engineer in the cab. It keeps the brain working. Someone is still steering the train. Let's think of it this way. Anger always has a cost. What if the scribes and Pharisees had stopped to really think about what Jesus was saying? Love the poor. Sell your fancy temple uniforms and just love the people. Stop loving your titles and start loving God. What if Jesus had not gone into the tomb for 3 days to process what had happened to him? What if Jesus said, I hate you, from the cross instead of I forgive you? Where would we be? What would be the cost of his anger? If Jesus had not stuck to his own teachings, where would we be? Amen.